Hi. Hello, everyone.
Hi. Hello, everyone.
Oh, I left the volume on.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, okay. I finally turned the volume off, so hopefully you can hear me okay. Tony, you said popped a heart up, so I assume that you can hear me okay. And welcome. I'm Concy, if you are new to me and my work. My website's called Atop Serenity Hill. And thank you, Mom. And Gail, thank you. I saw your note, and you actually didn't miss this one. Today's live is two things. I have that for you. One is to give you a little demonstration on some fall collage fodder, because I think it's always fun to give you something to play along with and have fun with. And the one that Gail's talking about that missed in the playground was summer. So it seems that I'm going to end up with 4 of these, and I'll probably have a winter version and a spring version. And those will happen in my membership, the Creative Playground. So the other reason I'm here today is to share that I'm in the midst of a free taster week for my membership, the Creative Playground, and all the links are below, so you can always check that out. And it's kind of like a sample classroom for you to play around in. And there is also a discount if you want to join the membership, which I would absolutely love. It's one of my favorite things is the membership, and the community is really fun and welcoming and just there to play and learn and to kind of feed off of each other's creativity, which is always fun. So welcome to everybody that's here. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll share a little bit more about the Taster Week in a bit, but first let's play and do some collage fodder. So let me pop my hands in the spotlight. And if you are going to be playing along, feel free to tell me. These are loose because I cut them out already, but these are some of the ideas that I thought we could play around with today. The summer collage fodder that I taught a while ago did include the mushrooms and this little zinnia flower. But they still felt very fall oriented to me, so I thought maybe we would play with them as well. So if you're going to play along, I have some cardstock. That's what I've been using because it gives it a little bit of solidity, but you can use regular paper, or if you wanted to go even thicker with your collage fodder that you cut out, you could go with like a watercolor paper or a mixed media paper, and then it would have even a stronger feel to it. Okay, it's also going to depend on what kind of cardstock you have. I can feel that these are 2 different brands, so I have no idea which is which, but definitely the different brands show up as to how thick they are, how much poundage in weight they are. So have some cardstock handy, then have some watercolor handy. And then the other thing that I use for my collage fodder as a shading technique is you can just keep shading it with watercolor if you want, but I love adding colored pencil to it. I like that it gives it another visual texture. I think you can see it probably pretty good in this little mushroom. So all that on the left side is colored pencil. So I can put down a base of color with watercolor and then do some shading with the colored pencil, and it just gives it, a different look. It's just a little rougher looking, which is super fun. And then you will need some marking pens. I use black and white for this. So I like to do some sketchy marks around all of my little collage fodder just to give it some oomph. It's also very much my style. It's rare I do watercolor and don't add sketchy marks to it. It's just a style that I have been doing for years. And then some white, you can use a white gel pen or a white Posca paint pen if that works for you to do some highlights, okay? So if you're playing along, awesome. If not, just watch and enjoy. So the first thing we'll start with is pumpkins. It's October. And of course you can go crazy with your pumpkins and make them jack-o'-lanterns, like with faces and things, if that's what you want to do. Maybe we'll even throw some of those in here today. So, and you do need a paintbrush. Did I forget that part? A paintbrush is always helpful. The two that I use the most are a round and a filbert, or you can use a flat. As you can tell, they're beat up. I'm not a traditional watercolorist, so I don't have brushes specifically for watercolor. I just use whatever's around. And maybe one day that will change and I will buy some, strictly watercolor brushes, but I just don't. I use whatever's sitting in the water next to me, which has usually been sitting there for a week. Very bad habit, but there you have it. So I'm going to start with my filbert, and I'm just going to pick up some orange. My orange is very light, so I'm going to put it down first and see how it works. A lot of times I add a little bit of this pink or red to it because it's just super pale. So a couple ways that I do these pumpkins, I'll start over here, is just to draw them with the watercolor, and bubbled out on the side, little dips on the bottom and top. Bubble out for the stem, a dip in the bottom, okay? You can, and I just let it sit for a second, let it dry. The other thing you can do is actually use the water. Oh, good, you can see. Use the water to put down the shape, and then add the paint to the water. Now, this is going to work a lot different than if you're working on watercolor paper, where if you're working wet on watercolor paper, it works really great. This, I'm just using cardstock, so it is absorbing the water really fast, okay? That doesn't bother me. I just don't care. This is not meant to be a watercolor exercise. This is meant to be fun and just play and just add, some cute little pumpkins to some artwork later. All right, so I might also pick up some yellow. Pumpkins are all different versions of oranges and yellows. That's a little too red. And you can see that my page is wet, so it's pilling a little bit. And again, in the end, I'm cutting them out, okay? So I'm going to just let these dry. So you can make them as big as you want, as little as you want. This one is definitely a lot bigger than these two. This is about this. This is a little smaller. And you can let them dry and then go back and add to them. You could have left more white in there if you wanted to. My philosophy on white is that I tend to not leave it. It's not really a philosophy, it's just how I am. I don't leave a lot of white. That's where I go back in with my paint pens or with white acrylic paint and add white back in. It's not something I naturally do. If I was to take more watercolor classes, I'd probably leave more white from the page behind as a highlight, but it's not my natural tendency to do that. So I just don't fight it. So that's also something, I guess what I'm trying to share is don't fight it, and don't beat yourself up because you've covered the whole thing in orange and you've left no white. You can always add white back to it, okay? Again, this isn't about being a watercolor class. This is about using watercolor as a fun tool for making collage fodder. All right, so I've got some pumpkins, yay. And then you can do some apples the same exact way. This apple has this little butt on it, like a, oh, hi, Deb. Good to see you here, honey bun. I think it's a Red Delicious. I might be getting the wrong one, as opposed to just a round apple. So you could do both. So I'm glad you guys can see the water. So I'm gonna wet my page, pick up some red. And then I'm also, for this one, gonna pick up a little green, makes it a little muddy. Probably should have waited for it to dry, but I'm gonna pick up some green, like the apple's not quite ripe. And I'll let that sit for a minute to dry. Let me pull the other one out from underneath. And then this one here, I'm just going to pick up the paint and just draw. So it has shoulders and then comes down and has a little baby butt. Okay. More of a shoulder. Those are like droopy shoulders, like someone is very depressed. We want high shoulders, like shoulder pads. Okay, same thing. I didn't leave a lot of white, but you get the idea of it being an apple. Okay. And I might end up having to dry these on camera. So now, just so that you can see what I just did and didn't really pay attention, I still wanted to add some leaves and a stem on the top of this one, and I have a lot left, hardly any space for this one. So how I can compensate for that is I can still put a stem on it, but I can come over to the side and do the leaves. I'm going to grab my round brush and I'm going to be cutting all this away. So I can come over here and just add 2 leaves to the side that I'll cut out separately and then I can add on. Okay. But if you wanted to do it where it's one piece like this is all one big piece, then make sure that you pay attention. Don't do what I just did. Pay attention to the fact that I didn't leave enough space for that. Okay. All right, so I've got my leaves for here, Since I've got my round brush out, I'll pick up some browns, pull my pumpkin back out as my sample. And if you have any questions about something I'm doing, please let me know. And I'm going to add a little swirly stem. The swirl stem is not that important, but I like the idea of it. I think it's cute. So I've got it laying on the pumpkin, and then I'm going to come up and give it a little swirl at the top. I don't have to make the paint super strong because I am going to go back in with the colored pencils and add to them. That adds some shading and other colors to it, so I don't have to make myself too crazy about how dark anything is. Okay. This apple is looking a little anemic, so let's go back in. And add some more to it. I think I'm going to pick up my my filbert. It'll be easier. Okay, and then I'm going to put stems on my apples. One stem on that. And everything about, I went back in with the pen here. So in order to make it look like it's sitting in the apple, I didn't try to make that too obvious right away. I can use my sketchy marks for that. And this will have just a little short stem because I was too close. Whoops. Now you could have added leaves to the pumpkins if you want to. I'm going to leave them not leaved. And then I'm going to add a couple leaves to this apple as well. Again, just putting down like some base color. Could put a little green in this one too, but the Red Delicious are usually pretty red. They don't have a lot of the green that some of the other apples, which of course I'm totally can't remember the names of apples right now, but like a Gala or, you know, something else like that has a little more red to it. Okay. All right, so I got some pumpkins. I got an apple. We could do some sunflowers. So these were the two flowers that you can do. This one to me was more of a zinnia. They're still blooming right now, so it would be a great fall flower to work with. And then the sunflower, which you can make as big or as little as you want. It doesn't matter. Oh, yes. Deb said she has the autumn leaves that she did ages ago. I have them too. They're still hanging on my bulletin board too. Yes, we did them on book paper. I think that's the ones you're talking about. So we're gonna do the sunflower. Again, you make it as big or as small as you want. I'm gonna do some brown in the center. Maybe I'll make this one a little bit bigger. So it depends what you're planning to do with them. You know, what Deb's talking about is we actually made a garland with the leaves on a piece of jute, like string, rope kind of thing. And so if you were gonna do it as like a garland, you might want the pumpkins or the sunflowers to be, you know, big. Like you could make them really large, maybe put 3 really big ones on your paper. But what I'm trying to do is create fodder for my art journals. So 9 times out of 10, my art journals aren't bigger than an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper folded in half. So I don't want to get the fodder so crazy big that it doesn't work. Okay, so then I've got my center on my sunflower. Then I'm going to use my filbert. And you can see that my filbert is kind of beat up. And this is actually perfect because it makes the petals a little ragged. So sometimes your old brushes really have good purpose in that, you know, you don't have to beat them up, or you don't have to worry. The petals just naturally happen because your brush is beat up. All right, so I've got myself a nice big sunflower. You can make the leaves, the petals, you know, longer. They could come to a point if you want them to. Kind of playing with this one a little bit without getting too close to my pumpkin. There's so many different varieties of sunflowers in a lot of different shades. So pick something that you enjoy. Okay. I might even pick up a little orange and yellow and do a second little layer here, because why not? Sunflowers have lots of layers of petals, so why not create that in the piece I'm working on? There's no right or wrong way. Just try it out, see what happens. I'm gonna make my center a little bit darker. Again, coming back with the color pencils, but that's really light, so I want to make sure it's got some color in it. And then if I wanted to just do these cute little zinnias, they're done the same way. Make sure I'm in screen, yep. The center is just a little bit smaller, and you can make it, that's very strong watercolor. Again, you can jump back and forth between putting down water and adding the paint on top, or just going straight in with watercolor. It doesn't really matter. Just play, just play. All right, and then I got some orange, and then I'm gonna do just short little petals, because zinnias have short little petals. Okay. And I'll let that dry and we'll play with that. All right, so I've got my sunflowers, pumpkins, apples. Let's see what else I can fit on this. Maybe some leaves. So you can get as fancy with the leaves as you want. If you have a stencil that has a lot of fall leaves on it, you could even like quickly trace out a leaf so that it's a fancier shape. You know, like I want to say like an oak leaf or a maple leaf. I think those are the ones I'm thinking of, where there are lots of the little jagged edges. For today's practice, and for today's demonstration, I want to keep it super simple for y'all, okay? A good chunk of the leaves falling off my tree right now are this shape, and they're in all different colors. So those are perfectly fine to have as a leaf shape, okay? And let's see if I can get 2 of them here. So I'm going to pick up a very soft, I'm just going to pick up some yellow. Yep, you can see that. Okay. Just to get a shape. I'm going to do it for both. And then I'll go in and just add bits of color here and there. You can grab leaves outside if you want to be really true to how the leaves turn color, or you can just use your imagination and let it be whatever comes out of your brush. Again, no right or wrong move. Just play. I cannot stress that enough. It's one of the things I talk about so much with my community, and especially with my membership, is how much play and just trying and experimenting is so important. You can't fail. All you can do is do something you're like, maybe not like that. And then you try it and use the information and try something else again. So I want you to always remember that, in the long run, it's just paint. This is a piece of cardstock, some watercolor, and a brush and some water. This is not rocket science or brain surgery, or however you want to say it. There is something, though, that I will say about that. It's not like what you're doing by just playing like this is not life or death. But I always say this, and it's kind of a large statement, but it will save you. It will save your life, because creativity is what brings your blood pressure down. It reduces your stress if you allow it. I will say that some people will get very wound up about their creativity because they're not doing it right. But if you allow it as a place in your life as fun and playful, and a sense of ease and experimentation and curiosity, and to think like a child, like you hand them these supplies, and if I'd said, here's some watercolor, here's a brush, and here's a piece of paper, and just draw me some pumpkins and sunflowers and leaves, they would not have analyzed it or gone outside and found the perfect leaf to trace, or they just would have done what came to them. And I think that's the energy that we need to tap into, because that's the energy that's going to bring us back to joy and delight in this world. And as we feel that, we start to radiate that out into the world. And that's where we change it, is to give that good play, fun, curiosity, energy out, feed it out into the world. And especially if you share it with others, which is what I'm always trying to do, is just share it with others. Okay. So then we've got this little fun leaf, which has more jagged edges to it. And let's see, pick up some orange here. I think you'll be able to see. And so I'm just going to literally make it jagged, zigzag back and forth, and just lay down some color, okay? And then once you add the fine lines over it, it will even more emphasize those jagged lines, okay? Because you can see underneath, I don't try to stay on top of the watercolor. It's just a guide to me. It's just something that's sitting there. All right, so let's see. Whoops. Add some red on one side. Maybe add a little yellow over here. All right, and we'll leave that one as a very red leaf, since I have a pretty yellow one here. I love that. All right, so we've got our leaves. And then we have a couple more things. So we have a tree and some mushrooms. So what I think I'll do is just do one more leaf here, since I have the space. And I'm doing a lot of fall colors. Nothing says you can't go in and just make green leaves. Okay, it always helps to have that as a nice contrast. To all the fall colors. Sorry, stop talking further with that train of thought. Okay, so just maybe a little bit of brown, like it's aging a little bit, starting to, it's not going to turn red or gold or anything, it's just green, and it's going to start to age out. Okay. Fabulous. All right, I'm going to let that dry for a little bit. I'm going to have to hit this with a gun. And then I'm going to grab another piece. The fun part about doing tons of these, like, whole page of pumpkins, whole page of apples, depending on how much collage fodder you want, is that then you can spend some time like watching TV or chatting with a friend to cut them out. Okay, so it's always something to have handy. If you're sitting in a carpool lane, you can, cut out all your stuff. All right, so the other thing that I tried out was, I love this little like puffball tree. It's such a simple tree. However, it's something like a kid might draw, but I was going down the rabbit hole of fall clip art, and I really loved the idea of these really simple shape of the bottom and a simple top that's just a single color if you wanted to, and it makes it fun. So let's make some trees. So I've got my filbert again. Okay. It is such a super simple shape. You can get as fancy as you want. Okay. You can make the limbs long and short and bend the tree here and there. You could even come up and make more branches. As you can see, I'm being really simple with the tree. I'm not trying to, this is about cute, simple, fun collage fodder, not about realism. That's not what we're going for here, is not realism. Okay. I mean, if you put this down with, maybe a pumpkin or something at the base, I like the little pumpkin here. I might have, a leaf at the back, maybe a mushroom sitting, like that little grouping, and then, make a border around it and draw and use it as a place to do some journaling is really fun. It's cute. It gives you something to focus on. It makes the page not white and blah. And you can talk about, how the fall season means to you, what it means like to, be in gratitude, because we're kind of heading into, in the United States, it's like Thanksgiving season for us. You could talk about, what's scary, because we're in Halloween season as well. So, use it as a place to have some journaling around it. So we got our trees, and then we'll start with, this one was really easy. I started with yellow. And just started popping down balls of color. I did have a little bit more water than normal in my brush, just so that it was bleeding into each other. Okay. And I could even pick up yellow and go back again if I felt like there was some more holes. I wanted to make it bigger. And I'll probably come back in and just, I am going to add the colored pencil again, but I just want to strengthen up my tree maybe just a smidge. Okay. So the other thing you could do is just make the whole thing. Of course, I've made the trees too close to each other again. Pay attention to that stuff, people. I actually like when that happens because it shows you that, you know, it is what it is. There's no perfection. So I've got green, and then I can go in and maybe just add a couple colors to it. So the tree is beginning to change. So some of this stuff might feel like it's not, you're not, you know, I don't like that tree, that's not what I would have done, and yay for you. I want you to take that and say, well, what would I have done differently? Maybe I'll go down and look at, you know, go down the rabbit hole looking at some clip art, some trees, some fall trees. How would I have changed it? What would I have liked doing differently? I encourage that. I'm just giving you a way to try it, and it is not the be-all, end-all by any stretch of the imagination. Whoops. Well, I wanted to add some green and brown leaves, but obviously got a little too much brown. That leaf is very dying. All right, so you can also go in and just add, I'm using the round brush, some actual leaves. And I'll cut these apart somehow. I'll figure that out. So again, nothing fancy. It's supposed to just look, it's not supposed to be realistic. It's just supposed to represent fall and a tree. When I'm done, I might not like it, and then I might not use it, and that's okay too. Because I'm having fun sitting here playing with y'all on YouTube. Because that's the fun part, isn't it? Fabulous. Oh, thanks, Allison. I probably would have tried to get them, if I hadn't gone like looking and kind of done a little research about clip art, like what does clip art look like? How do people design clip art? I might not have done trees like this either. I probably would have tried to make it a little more, you know, with a round brush, but these are fun and they're different than what I normally would have done. And that's just from spend a little time Googling. All right, so we got some trees. And then of course, mushrooms, super cute. And, you know, obviously well, there are red mushrooms and hot pink mushrooms, but, you know, make the mushrooms, they don't have to be realistic. Pretend you're in a fairy garden. What color would your mushroom be? So do a couple different bases. Maybe different colors of brown. 1, 2. Let's do one up here. Something a little more just straight up and down. Well, we can try. Deb said that the third one, but I imagine the fussy cut might be a bit of a challenge. Don't forget, fussy cut is a loose language in my world. Okay. One, I probably wouldn't get, I would probably leave a lot of white. I don't know that I would get in here necessarily, but one of the things I found with fussy cutting, most everybody uses scissors. You could scissor the base of it out, and then you could go in if you want to practice with an X-Acto knife like this and a cutting board, or a cutting mat, not a cutting board, and go in and you could cut some of these little intricate pieces out. They're easier if you do it with an X-Acto knife, okay? When I did the original, not the ones I showed you today, but the summer ones that Gail was talking about earlier, I had just taken a class where we did a lot of really fine cutting with an X-Acto knife, and I was finding that easier to maneuver than to cut it with scissors. So maybe use a combination of both, and you might be able to get it a little bit sharper. Or let it be just a big white circle and call it good. All right, and then we want some tops on our mushrooms. All right. I might have a green mushroom. Okay, so did you know mushrooms are all different? Maybe a low mushroom with the yellow. Okay. All right, so that would be some of the designs, and I'm going to show you how I would color them. Let's see if they're dry enough. They are not. So give me 1 second. I'm going to mute, and I'm going to hit this with the blow dryer. So chat among yourselves if you like. Okay. This apple is super wet, but we're gonna ignore him. Okay, so these are, it doesn't matter what brand, I just happen to own, this is a Blick Studio pencil and Prismacolor. Most of my color pencils are Prismacolor. And the reason they're that is because someone, I think it was my husband, bought them a zillion years ago. And so I still have them because it is not my primary art supply, although it is getting more and more as I love using them. And so I would come in, and where's my samples? So here's a sample, and just add, and I do color on the side. I'm not coloring like this, like a pencil, okay? So I'm using the side to lightly add that in. I can go back in and even add some extra color if I want. All right, some yellow. Sometimes I'll just play with it. And sometimes I'll just add color, one color, okay? So that's my leaf, my sunflower. Say I'll darken up one side, maybe. Depends, it's really gonna depend how strong your watercolor is. If you want to go in, this is dark green. I might even add a little bit of that in just because it's interesting. how much you want to do with the colored pencil, because it's going to depend how dark your watercolor was to begin with. Okay. So then with the petals, I'm going to come near the base of them and just kind of anchor them with a little of this orange colored pencil. I could have used yellow, I could have used a really pale orange, I could have used red, could have used like a yellow ochre. Honestly, this is where the experimenting and the fun comes in of how it changes it. Okay, sharpens it up a little bit. Can go into my pumpkin. This is a very soft orange. This one's very light, so maybe I could just do some soft orange. Pick up a pale vermilion. That's like a very red color. Orange red, pick up some of that. Maybe I'll make that more in here. And just play with it. Again, you can't mess with it too much and ruin it. If you ruin it, if it's really horrible, throw it away, but I doubt it's going to be that horrible. I do not have swatches for these color pencils, so I just play with them until I like what happens. It's my very fancy way of working. Play until it works. All right, and then I have my stem. Try different color browns, see which one I like better. And then I got my apple here. Let's see. This is crimson red. That's as appley as you can get. So I didn't do a lot with this apple. I just kind of kept the red on one side. And then I might come in with, just to see how it works, I'm going to add, oranges don't have oranges. Apples don't really have orange in them. But sometimes it just can be fun to add the color just to give it a little more interest. This apple is a little bent. All right, and same thing with the leaves. I just like it for adding a little bit of texture and layering, and just see. You can also use it, especially with the leaves, to add a whole nother color on top. Fun, fun, fun. All right, so I've got some green on this one. A little dark on that. Okay, so you get the idea of where I'm going with this. Here's the leaf that I did before, where I just kept layering the reds and yellows. Picking up the different greens and seeing. Oops, got a little fancy out there. See what happens. All right, so then once I had done that with my collage, or with the little fodder pieces. Then I come in before I cut. The cutting is the very, very, very last thing. Okay, and I add in, I'm going to bring the camera down, so give me 1 second. Let's get a little closer. I'm going to add in I use a Sharpie pen. You can use whatever, a micron. If you like using paint pens that are very thin, you can use a paint pen. I am a fan of the Sharpie pen. Oops, sorry. Y'all probably could see a little bigger than I can, but my camera is tiny. So I've got a little. The thing with colored pencils is that they can get a little waxy, so just bear that in mind as you go over it with your colored, with your pen. Okay, my Sharpie. So I'm gonna pick up my brown colored pencil, and I'm also gonna just add some veins with that too. Just really loose, super sketchy. Add a stem up the center, couple veins, come back in with my colored pencil, and just add a little brown. Okay. So then with the sunflower, each of the petals, I can make super jagged marks, because then no matter what happened to the sunflower and the paint that I put down, the petal, let me say that again. No matter what mark I put down with the brush, I can now emphasize it and make it even more jagged with the pen. Okay. And I can layer them a little bit, so I can make those orange ones first, come back in, and then add the yellow in the back. If I wanted to do a bit of layering. And then with the sunflower center, I'm going to do, I don't think you can see that very well, so let me see it on this side. Lots of little C's, so it looks like there are seeds. So out onto the petals a little. Again, emphasizing that real jagged, loose look that are sunflowers. And I'll hold it up so you can see pretty good. Okay. Super simple. If I'm doing my pumpkin, I'm going to do the outside. Emphasize the fact that the stem is sitting in the pumpkin. And then add a couple marks where the pumpkin has those different sections. All right, and I got my stem. Okay, got my pumpkins. And I could keep doing all the way around to do each one. So the apple the same way, and the little mushrooms, let's see if they're dry enough. The mushrooms the same exact way. The only difference, with the mushrooms, I did one other thing. You can do these little marks on the mushroom top so they look like they have the divots. You can do that with a watercolor, or you could do it with, there it is. You could do it with watercolor, or you could do it with the colored pencil, or you could do it with both. Okay, so if I just came in and added, whoops, sorry, not on camera, those little divots, and then I outline them. Okay. So same idea, kind of outlining it before it's dry, but or before I've added the colored pencil. But you can get the idea of the same thing. And then you just cut them out. And I'm okay with a little bit of white around each one. I don't feel like it's necessary that you get super close. It's hard to with the sketchy lines anyway. And the same thing with this tree. You know, I probably will go in and I might cut it just kind of jagged first and then see if I want to get closer or not. So just realized I've been chatting here at you for about 50 minutes. So is there any questions on any of these or how I accomplished? I'm going to go back up with the camera, so bear with me. It's like being on a ride. Any questions about how I did this? And if there are questions on it after you're watching this, if you're watching the replay, then please put them in the chat below, or make a comment, or feel free to reach out to me and ask any questions you want. And just because this is also about my playground, I was, if you'll bear with me, I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. Good. Thanks, Deb. Please do try them. So I wanted to just make sure that you all knew about the fact that the Taster Week for my playground is currently going on. It's happening until Sunday, the end of day Sunday on the 22nd. So if you would like to play around in the classroom, then please click the link below and it will take you to where you can sign up to do that. If you're having trouble with it, again, comment below or reach out to me. These are just 3 things that are really important that I'm emphasizing with this Taster Week about the fact that 5 minutes counts. Do 5 minutes. I mean, each of these little pieces of collage can be done in about 5 minutes if you just keep it simple. You know, you could do 5 minutes every day, and then you're touching your creativity to be really curious and experiment. Those will teach you a lot, okay? This is how I am curious and experiment, is doing stuff live with y'all. Obviously, I did it ahead of time because I needed something to show you where we were going with it. But there's a lot of times that I do art journal pages and I'm just winging it live with you. So, because to me, it's just about trying and playing and being in the process. The other thing is always, you know, remember that limited supplies in a beginner's mind are really, really enough to get you going and even to keep sustaining a creative practice. This was watercolor, colored pencils, and a Sharpie in essence, you know, and a piece of paper. So it wasn't anything fancy. It was just super simple supplies. So if you are interested, there is an open studio and Q&A this Saturday from 2 to 3 p.m. It is on Zoom. You do have to be on my mailing list for the Taster Week in order to get the invitation for that. So just let me know if you would like to be a part of that. You can come and ask me any questions that you want. It doesn't have to be about the playground. It could just be about creativity in general, okay? And then part of being in Taster Week is there is a discount code to join my Creative Playground membership. The membership is $18 a month or $180 for the year. And so the discount code is for the first month free if you join month to month, and for $18 off if you join yearly, which would end up giving you 3 months free. That's what the yearly membership ends up being with the discount code, is 3 months. So if you're interested in that, then please, you know, let me know, sign up with the links below. And I am so happy that you joined me here today and that I was able to play and share something fun with you. I hope you will take it and make it your own. Try something new. It doesn't have to be pumpkins. It could be that you want to find all flowers, or you want to do all foliage, or, you know, you are really loving like little houses and you want to make little Halloween houses. You know, there's so much you could do, ghosts and scarecrows and things, if you wanted to go down the Halloween route. So just, you know, let your imagination out to play. Okay. Thanks so much, Deb. I hope you will enjoy. The other one was fun. It was me art journaling. So thanks y'all for being here with me today. And I will see you in all the fun places that we share together. Thanks so much, Allison. Y'all have a wonderful day. Thank you.